Hey guys, and welcome to the scenario tutorial for Unveil, the survival simulator built on RPG Maker, and RPG Maker may be required. No, actually it is required for this. This is a 3-part tutorial because it is fairly lengthy and you need to watch all 3 episodes to actually know how to distribute one of these, alright? So let's get started. We have our package right here that we created on the introductory video. As you can see, it's particle, because that's my name, Particle Studios, _ my awesome mod.package, right? Inside of it, we will find a folder called scenario and a file called scenario.json. For this episode, we're gonna focus on the contents of the scenario folder. Now, on this episode, we're gonna be checking out what are the the RPG Maker limitations that we have for editing a project, or say, a project that will add maps to the game. And also talk a little bit about the special maps you're gonna find in this. So on this folder, you will find pretty much like a fake RPG Maker project. You have to bear in mind you are not editing an existing RPG Maker project, like you're not editing Unveil, right? But instead, this is a separate project, and you know, it comes with an audio folder that has nothing in it. It has a data folder that will be completely ignored except for the maps right here, and it also comes with a graphics folder with some tile sets and everything. But all of this is really just meant for so that the RPG Maker editor can see the tile sets that you use in Unveil, so you know you can actually build those maps. But this folder can like the graphics folder can be deleted, and this will work just fine whenever you run the game. All right, that's where I'm trying to get the point across. Movies also automatically generated, and system as well, but none of these are used. In fact, you can delete all of these except for data and maps, and you're gonna have a much more lightweight distribution, and it's still gonna function just fine. Now, we're gonna get back to the maps folder in another episode, but for today we're gonna open up the project and we're gonna see what we find. And for that, we're gonna go to Windows. That's where the game actually runs on, and RPG Maker as well. So on here, you're gonna find that there is a repositories map and then also a scenario map. Ideally, you want to put everything that is part of your scenario inside of this one, although that is not a requirement. It's just to be more organized. That's really it. So in here you have a starting area, and we're gonna maximize this. You have a starting area and a cave. We're gonna talk about what the properties of a map are, and the size, and how to draw one on another episode, because today I wanna talk about what you can and can't do in the editor. If you do not pay attention here, you're gonna be smashing your head against the wall so hard you will be dead and you won't be able to mod. So you really need to pay attention for your own life safety. That's how important it is. So in here you will find a database with actors and classes and skills and items and so on. None of this matter. If you make any change in here, it will be ignored. It won't be imported into the game. So if you add or change actors or classes or skills or items or weapons or armors or enemies or troops that are not in the game, or states, or animations or title sets or common events or system or terms, none of this will be imported. None of it. Like if you are editing something in this window, in the database window, it doesn't matter which tab, it's just going to be ignored. Bear that in mind. However, you can use this to say check what the common events are, right? You can find like there's a scenario completed one. In example, you can call whenever you wanna, just forcefully complete a scenario. You can use some of these, right? And like especially like the first ones, fade to black from white, to white from white, slow fade from white. You get the idea. And these work actually with the user interface, so the user interface will hide if you actually use these. So but except for checking existing values, there's no point in actually accessing the database. Scripts completely empty and they won't be imported. So what you really need to do is just use these maps, right? Create your own maps, and then you can rely on these 3 special maps to get some stuff done, really. And I'm gonna cover them one by one. So starting with placeholders, in here you will find some events that invoke the actual simulation units. Like in example, this, as you can see by the code, this is really simple. Like there's really no code here. What is going on is that this event will put a plant on its location, and then the event is going to disappear correctly. It will clean itself up correctly. So if I want to put a plant in the world, I can just copy this right here and go to the starting area and paste it. Right? You do not actually create an event and make your own plant, because that is not going to have the simulation unit attached to it. It won't be recognized by the game. You need to do it this way, right? So if you want to put a plant in a special place, you can do it so. Otherwise, you can use the spawning settings. Same thing if you want to have like a tree block in the way, which actually there are 2. Like the first one is just a small tree, but the second one is single harvest. It means it can't grow back. And they do grow back after some time. So if you don't want it to grow back, because the idea was for you to go through, like in example, the free roam scenario, no, not the free roam, the root scenario, the first scenario you play on Unveil, you know, it has this property. It's a small tree, single harvest. So whenever you put it here, right? And you make it so they must cut the tree to go through, it won't grow back, so they can actually keep going back and forth, which was an issue before. Now, that is pretty much for the placeholders. Now, assistive events, this is where it gets more interesting. In here we have a couple invisible ones. This one right here is really important. Really important. This is called first arrival. It's an invisible pretty much event that will auto run whenever the game starts up, and allows you to add some text while the screen is still on white. Then the screen fades from white. If you don't do this, you will see a white screen and you won't be able to do anything. And then some text or some animations like moving around and so on after it, right? And then you can actually call the game started and activate the user interface. Now, you shouldn't modify this, but I left it here in case you want to do some more advanced stuff whenever you get more confident on this, right? Then second and third page, you just leave it the way it is. That's it, right? So this event is really important so that it is on the first map you land, right? So in example, the starting area has this first arrival event right here in the top left corner. You need it on every starting map. So if you have multiple ones, all of them need to have it. You can do different introductions on them, but they all need to have them. Only one of them will be executed, because as you can see, the third page has a switch that says if the game has been introduced already once, this is going to go automatically to this page, so the first one will never actually run. All right. So that is for that, and that is a really important one, so I wanted to spend some time on it. And then we have another assistive event that you can use whenever you want. It's better for like storytelling. This basically allows you to set, well, if the player is on this region, then do whatever it is on this page, right? You just add stuff right here, and you show some text, right? You can do stuff, and that's it. Then this will clean itself up so it doesn't execute again, right? Make sure you do not erase events on Unveil, because they will automatically spawn again whenever you walk into the map. If you want to disable it, just put it on a page that does nothing and just hides itself, right? That's the best approach to it. Then we have some cave exit. No, that is actually a cave entrance. As you can see, this is one of the holes that you would put on a wall, right? And you can define the teleporting location. Teleport start and end are some events that we need to keep, so I can keep extending this functionality, but you get to define here where you actually land whenever you interact with this hole. Then we have an inverse one for whenever you are in a cave and you want to go out and the entrance is on a wall, and the same if the entrance is on a wall you can't see because of the top-down perspective, right? And this is actually the one you see the most, and in here on the cave you can actually see it right here, and it works the same way. You just put where the exit is, right? So an exit for a cave would be, I don't know, whenever outside the entrance, and the entrance for a cave would be like in front of it, right? So whenever you go in, you you're far from it. If you actually put it on the entrance, you will be immediately teleported back. So you know, don't do that. All right, so that is pretty much it for this, and this is a waterfall. And it's pretty straightforward. If you have sort of like water falling and you want to have that waterfall effect, and with the sound effects with proximity, you just copy this event, right, and you put it wherever like the waterfalls are, and that's it. Make sure actually notice that the water is not going to be hitting right here, it's going to be hitting on the top. So in fact, that's just an RPG Maker thing. I can't really do anything about it. But if you have, say, this, right, you have like a lake like this, and then you have this, and you know, there should be cliffs and more stuff, but you get the idea. This should be here. I know it's counterintuitive, but it should be like here, because then the graphic will extend all the way up to the top, and this is going to display right here in the middle, right? So you do not put it here. I know this is intuitive, this isn't, but this is the correct way to do it, all right? So we're gonna delete all of that. All right, there we go. So that is it for the assistive events. This may actually grow with time, but that's all there is for now. And then there is common events. Now, what is this? Well, if you heard me before, and you better should have, on the database, whatever you create is going to be ignored and not imported. So you cannot create your own common events. And that is actually a big downfall to, you know, being able to make your own custom stuff. Luckily, you get to still create common events right here. You can actually duplicate this one. And it's pretty straightforward. On the name, you define the code name that, just like any code name while modding Unveil, it must only contain numbers, letters, and underscores. Numbers, letters, and underscores, and it can't start with a number. And that is pretty much it, right? So you can do my other common event, and you can call this like later on by using the there's a function here that is, well, I forgot what it is, but get the idea. Okay, there we go. Package common events. You're gonna have to check the documentation for all of these. But this is actually how you call one of these events. You need to use game storytelling dot reserve common event. Don't use the game temp reserve common event. This is much better. And also because in here you get to use the code name. So actually you cannot even use the other one. Right? So that way you can actually call your custom event. Now, I know you may be thinking, oh man, it's so much easier to just use the common event. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but the reality is that we're all adding more content to the same game. And the only way to make it organized is to not use RPG Maker, because if I was to import a database, we would overwrite everybody else's databases. So, you know, and of course the IDs are fixed, right? So if somebody creates, let's say we find a way to merge it. If we rely on numbers, somebody creates a common event in the slot 200, and then you do as well, then only one of them is gonna exist, and of course the game is gonna be broken in either scenario. So you get the idea. It's just a mess. This is the only way that I find it possible to actually extend the game in an organized way. All right, so you can still create more common events. You just copy and paste this one, so you have, you know, a good template. And again, you define your own code name, so you can eventually call it by code. And by code, I mean, you know, if you're using an event, you can just use the advanced. You go to page 3, advanced script, and then you just use this code right here, and then you just call this common event. In this case, it's called my common event, and that's it. That's how you call it from another event or whatever, not actually from within itself. That will be silly, and that doesn't really make any sense. If you want to have a parallel common event, that is something you can do, as it is indicated in the documentation as well. And all you have to do is take one of these and switch it to parallel process. Also, make sure that they all have different names. You cannot have two common events with the same name. You can check the names right here in the bottom right corner. Make sure they're all different, or that's gonna, well, I mean, they're gonna overwrite each other. The lastly created one is going to take precedence, and that is not what you want. All right, so let's see. I think that is pretty much it for this episode. This pretty much sums up what you can and can't do in the world editor here in Unveil. All right, I know you're gonna see that there is no audio or anything. That is normal. Remember, you can't either play test it, you need to do it from within the game, and of course if you make changes to the scenario, you need to leave the scenario and then come back in. You don't have to restart the game, but you do need to leave and then leave the game, right, and then coming back again. If you make more modifications that are external, like other files and so on, that are not just the scenario, but you're actually modifying stuff like items, adding items or custom assets or so on, then you definitely need to close Unveil. But if you just, you know, make a slight change here, like say you just do this, that's fine. You do not need to close Unveil. Just leave the current game and go back in. So that is pretty much it for this episode. Make sure you check the other two where you're gonna learn to draw a map and actually add all the spawnables and all the fancy stuff, and then of course how to actually wrap up and distribute one of these. Thank you very much for watching and having patience, and I can't wait to see what you guys create, and I will see you on the next part.